Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, it's I don't know what is it? What is it, Calvin?
Was there any holidays recently? I can't think of any.
I don't know, but
it was probably
this week,
someone's birthday. So whose birthday it was?
You know what? Happy birthday! It's your birthday. Congratulations! You're 1 year older, 1 year wiser, 1 year better than you were before.
Exactly. When's our channel's birthday? I don't even remember.
That's a good question. It feels like it's soon.
I feel like it was. Yeah, I feel like it was in a March or a May. I think it was in a month that started with M.
Well, you know what? For our channel's birthday, we'll do an extra special thing just for you guys. I just made that up now, so now we have to go rush and do something. Hooray!
Oh, it was March, so we do have to rush. Our very first video was that one time we played Sentinels of the Multiverse in 2018, and it was on March 9th. So this March, I don't know, maybe we'll play more Sentinels.
Yeah, no, we'll just play one more. We'll do a lot.
We'll do a part 2 finally.
Part 2, where I'm pretty sure I played Argent Adept or something, and I just kind of squandered my turns and then stole a kill at the end.
You definitely did that in one of our games. It might have been that one. I know you did it back when we played IRL at some point.
Yeah, back in the before times.
Your classic style of play with Argent Adept, yes. Letting everyone else do everything and then coming in at the end to help.
I swear that character's cool. Maybe.
No,
I don't know. It
just
it feels like it should be. You do a lot.
Like, I know he's cool because I've been listening to the it's been a while since I've gone back to it, but the Letters Page podcast that's all about the Sentinels comics characters and their lore and their backstories and all the locations and stuff like that. So when I was listening to that, I was like, oh yeah, I know he's a cool character, but I just really like the way you played him.
Just floundering until right at the end. Yeah, well, you know what? Let's jump into our DM tip of the week.
Oh, right, yeah.
I don't remember if we did one last week.
No, we did.
We did one last week.
We definitely did, but this is a podcast. We should intro the podcast instead of just rambling about birthdays.
Yes.
This is a podcast that's all about us trying to, basically we talk about our experiences, running tabletop RPG games, in the interest of hopefully making it seem a bit more relatable to you, the listener. So in case you have an interest of, hopping on the other side of the GM screen, or whatever you might want to call the person who sets the rules for your game and does the narration, if you have an interest in doing that, we just want to try to make it seem like a bit more relatable, or something that's easier to do.
Yeah, definitely, because it is. It's super duper doable.
Yes.
All right. Well, so that tip of the week. For the theme of the podcast, I guess one of the things we're talking about is like rewarding your players, right? Mm-hmm. Right. And my tip is to just give them what they want.
You should be careful with that one, but I think I get the spirit of it.
No, you should. Well, here's the thing,
yeah.
Right? I love me some random tables, right? Like I love me some generating some random tables, and whatever loot you get is what you get, and you're like, you have to like use whatever despairing like pieces of equipment that you managed to gather, cobble together through your adventures to slay the dragon, right? Like that's always like that's always what I want players to do, right? But sometimes I think that you need to have like a balance, and if you lean too much towards like random generated stuff, like I guess items, or maybe even NPCs, or like just like too random stuff, it's like, well, the players might not. I feel like you signed up to play this badass paladin with this badass sword, except you keep rolling, I don't know, wands, and then you're like, well, I can't use these, right? But you kind of have to like think about what or at least talk to your players. Sorry, you should talk to your players about their goal for their character, what they feel like their character is, right? Because you're in top of like you're trying to present your world that you've worked so hard on, but you also want your characters, your player characters, to feel like heroes and feel like they're a little special in the world, right? Because they are, because they're your players. They showed up to play to be heroes, and on this crazy story about how they gonna defeat an evil princess and save the dragon, right? So it's like you gotta
that'd be cool. Yeah.
Right, or like, maybe even just give it to be like, okay, you need to get the +5 princess slaying sword in the castle over there, right? You gotta go do that, and then you just go do that. And you just literally give it to them, and then you're like, oh, cool, I have this cool, badass sword,
the Princess Bane sword.
Yeah, Princess Bane sword, and then you take the sword, and then after you kill the princess and save the dragon, like you go and fight some other evil, but you still have that cool princess sword, right?
Yeah.
Anytime you run into more evil princesses, it's like, bam. I got this, guys. Anyway, that's my DM tip.
Yeah, no, definitely. I get that. Like, you want your rewards to feel, like, specific to the players.
Yeah.
Not just, like, a thing they stumble across. Like, yeah, if you keep throwing wands at characters who can't use wands, then they're going to end up feeling like they're not really getting something out of being that badass paladin who just killed the princess or whatever.
Right. And if you just give them like money and stuff like that, then they're just gonna buy what they want, obviously, right? But it kind of takes away like the magic of like finding something that's like that's like, oh, my character would definitely use that, right? Like, yeah. Especially for because I know fighters and like other martial classes, they will want the thing that they use the most, right? That they imagine their characters using, right? So it's like if you don't roll one of those, like you have a +5 flaming trident, but your man only uses a club, then you're like, well, you could switch to using a trident, but that's not really what my character's about. My character's name's Club, and he clubs, right? So,
yeah. No, I can't say anything about that. I had a character named Macy, so.
Yeah, right. And I think the key thing about Macy is the fact that she has a giant mace that is pretty cool. And that's going into like, well, that's just like my personal bias. Like I always love to homebrew stuff for players, right? That's where I get my rocks off. I'm like, yes, please use these cool things that I spent probably a little bit too much time, like, figuring out. Please use it to bash my monsters in, right? That's what I. It's like a full validation of like, yes, I'm the best DM. Everyone's having so much fun. Yes.
Yeah, I mean that is definitely something that I want to do more of going forward, is creating more magic items, just putting them in more instead of just giving my players gold. Especially with my Crown of Dragons group. I don't know. I want to start giving them better rewards for stuff. Also, I did. This is a bit off topic, but one of my players just sent a backstory for the new character. The one that died last week. And it was really, really good. And it's like I'm torn between I miss that character and, oh, wow, this is really cool. I can't wait to traumatize this person now.
Traumatize this person. Who knows, Calvin? Maybe you'll just kill them too.
I hope not.
You should keep like a tally, like who you killed last, so you just remember, like, okay, maybe I won't attack that person.
Go easy on this specific player.
Go easy on that one. Yeah, give him some time to really get attached before you rip him away.
Look, you stand 20 feet away from a drake, it's gonna do what drakes do.
True. That's well. All right, let's get into it. Yeah. So we're gonna talk about you're going to say something that was way more better than whatever I was gonna say. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, today's main topic that we wanted to discuss is sort of rewarding your players as well as like encouraging and engaging with them. However much of that we can squeeze into this 1 hour long episode. But basically we wanted to talk about like how to, I mean, for me, I'm thinking like how to keep your players motivated, keep them going. Like what do you give them when they accomplish a certain task? Because I mean, this game is largely about questing. Right?
Yeah.
Going to a place, dealing with a thing, doing a task there, and then you get something for it, whether it's gold, whether it's notoriety, whether it's items. So I guess like what we just want to touch on a bit was how do you reward your players? Right.
So like I said previously, it's like I like to give out mostly like I like personalized like magic items a lot. I think that's where I find the most fun of the game is. It's like trying to figure out what that character would want and then putting it somewhere for them to find it. Right? Yeah. Like that's the juice, right? It's like I really want them to get it and be like, wait, what? Whoa, like, you know, like that like exciting moment. Or just, you know, like maybe something narratively makes sense, or they flat out ask me and I'm like, yeah, okay, that sounds fine. I'll just like put it somewhere. or just give it to them, right?
See, like that's for me, it's like this is why I'm bad at like giving gifts IRL, is like I don't know what people want.
Oh.
So like I don't know, it would be cool to make something that would like fit with like the direction a certain character is going in, or with their abilities, something like that. But like I don't know, like that's why I kind of prefer just giving them resources to acquire the things they want, rather than making my own stuff. But at the same time, like even doing that, like that monster energy drink potion thing, like that's still sort of interesting in terms of items. And they're like very basic potions. They do stuff that most potions do already, just like with a bit more flavor text and a bit like some slight changes. But at the same time, like there's still, you know, unique items that players are happy to have that I think I'm gonna start like having lying around a bit more.
Yeah, or you could also just make them like slightly more expensive and only like harder to get, right? And give them like extra abilities, because that's the thing with it too. It's always about like, it's either like how much they're able to actually use that cool ability, and how easy it is to like get more of it or recharge it or whatever, right? So, you know, like for instance, a lot of the abilities and cool things that I got, which I mostly stole from Matt Colville's Matt Colville's campaign that he's running.
Standing on the shoulders of giants, steal stuff is like DM tip number 1.
Yeah, definitely DM tip number 1. So for his campaign that he was live streaming, like he's a Chain of Acheron campaign, I stole all of his, you know, officer abilities, right? Like some of them anyway, a couple of them. I definitely took the leader ability and like the lieutenant ability, and I just gave them to my players, but I made sure that it was like, you know, once per encounter or something like that. Did I put it at?
Because I would have to check my notes on that, wherever those might be, but I think it was something like that.
It's something like once per encounter or once per day. I think I limited it as, and like that made it so like, well, it probably was once per day, where it's like, well, now you have to choose like when you want to use it, right? And they're mostly like tactical combat things, right? So it's like whether something warrants you to do something, and it's like I think it was like the leaders, the commander's ability is like literally like command. So you tell somebody like, hey, you go hit that guy, and then they just as a free action just use a hit. They just make an attack roll. And I made it so like, because I think Macy's the commander, obviously, so Macy is being a barbarian, they would add Macy's barbarian rage bonus, because, you know, Macy is commanding them to do it and they get enraged and get the bonus, and, you know, slap, right? But, you know, if somebody else was going to be the commander, they will get some other bonus, right? Like, I don't know, like spitting it out, like maybe like if the commander was a wizard and he goes and tells a person to go do that, maybe they are able to cut a spell, or like, you know, have dispel magic as like they enchant, like their words literally like enchant the weapon, and is like you cut off of some magic and then you dispel an attack or dispel a creature or something like that, right?
Yeah,
who knows, right? It's just like, you know, little things like that, which makes it so like, you know, they have your players just have like more options. And like I don't know, I assume that it's successful because I think that we've used it several times for some really epic moments.
Yeah, we have. We've definitely used that to get some like massive damage in. Especially with that bonus, and then just being able to do an attack off turn. It's really super effective. Well, I guess we can. So, like, what about like different types of rewards? Because that sort of seems to me like an award of like an ability or notoriety kind of thing. And we were just talking about like items. So, like, how do you determine? Well, do you determine like when is a certain type of reward better in certain situations, or is that just like as the situation comes kind of thing?
Well, I think that like if you're exploring like a dungeon or something, you should definitely put like some magic items in that dungeon, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going underground and fighting some dragons and some skeletons and stuff, like there's no better place to put like a magic sword than like in a chest or something, or like in a sarcophagus or like whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like classic D&D. Always a good idea to put that stuff there, you know.
Like if you're in a combat scenario, then you put like a combat based reward.
Not necessarily. I mean, you could also have like plot rewards down there. I mean, like, or anywhere, or like it's just that like I find that like the idea of delving into a dungeon and retrieving magical items or like artifacts and stuff like that has always been appealing. I mean, that's like the whole start of the whole Dungeons and Dragons thing, right? It's like you go into dungeons to get loot so you could go into more dungeons, right? Like that was the gameplay loop.
That's the loop. That's the gameplay loop.
That's
yes.
the loop. Right, that was the first gameplay loop, right? There wasn't like, you know, all this high adventure, I guess. That was kind of added in afterwards as like the game kind of progressed, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, you could always lean back on like, well, there's a dungeon and there's definitely going to be magic items in that dungeon. And like that alone could also just be like, all right, my players would want to do that because who doesn't want magic items and stuff to make their characters cool so they could go do more cool shit, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, but in terms of like rewarding like titles or abilities that are just like, oh, you're the I don't know, you're like the king's bodyguard now. That's your title, and now you get a cool king's bodyguard ability, or like you're the knight of whatever, and it's your knight ability, right? Mm-hmm. Definitely after like, you know, fulfilling some sort of like NPC requirement or quest line or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, your reward is a title, but I think like titles are cool because titles give you like a little bit of political sway, and like, you know, a little bit of like, you know, you can always lean back on it to be like, why, like NPCs like questioning your motives or something like, hey, listen, I'm the knight of the king, and you're like, oh, okay, right?
Yeah, back off, buddy. I killed a princess.
Buddy, right? Killed a princess, a whole princess.
So I guess it's sort of like I guess players are getting like new resources in a way. Like if it's an item, it's a resource that they can do some damage with. If it's a reputational thing, it's a resource that they can use for some advantage with regards to like RP moments and stuff like that.
Yeah, you could. But also like I think that titles and stuff like that, you could give a combat bonus for it, right? Like, and you could also give your magic items a reputational bonus. I mean, come on, if you're like a wizard that recovered like one of the 3 staffs of like the magic king, right? Who slayed 5,000 princesses with it, then like if you're walking around with that thing, then people are gonna be like, oh my god, right? What do you mean you just have that? Yeah, right. Right. You know, from the 1,000 Princess War or whatever, right? 1,000 Year Princess War, right?
1,000 Year Princess War, yeah, of course.
Yeah, right. So, you know, like it's that stuff is also important, and I feel like, you know, you should also just give, like, if someone's walking around with something like that, they're gonna be like, everybody and their mother who knows what that is should be like, either, wow, I can't believe you got that, you must be super cool, or wow, I can't believe you got that, give that shit to me right now. Like, you don't know what it means.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's fair. Like you can definitely like create different like story threads just from giving players rewards. Like those kind of items that would encourage some NPC to either totally respect them or to try to do some sort of nefarious deeds towards them.
Yeah, a good example I think is Matt Koval's Shield of Andrum. Like the Shield of Andrum is both a magic shield that does cool things, and as well as like a political symbol where like if you walk around with it, everyone's gonna be like, shit, that's important. Like, yeah. right, and some of them are gonna try their darndest to get it from them, right? So, you know, yeah, you know, it's you should definitely do that. You should definitely make titles and bullshit NPC stuff important in combat sometimes, maybe give them some cool abilities, and then, you know, also on the flip side, you can make your cool combat stuff like your awesome +1 flaming princess beating sword to be like, you know, it's the princess slayer, right? That's important, right?
Yeah, I think that also does help with the sense of progression Like as much as leveling up and getting stronger helps with players feeling like they're progressing through something, I think also like just becoming more important within the space of the world itself, I think would also help with that. I did want to talk about like encouragement a bit, and sort of tying that back to what you're rewarding players with. And I think what I see as like an important part of being a player, at least for me, when I'm in the player seat, is I like feeling like I'm progressing, and I think that's relatable to a lot of people who also are players who are playing the game. Probably, I mean, I can see GMs feeling like they want to progress as well, but more so I think as a player that your goal is less about it's more like specific to you as a character, to you as a character, like, and who you interact with, whether it's other players or other NPCs, and the spaces you interact with. And I think that like getting stronger, getting more like getting a better reputation, good or bad, dragon or princess, whatever it may be, just progressing on that track, I think would be like an encouragement to a player, is what I'm trying to circle back to, is how to encourage your players with rewards.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, you know, it's just like you gotta give them all sorts of things, right? You can't just keep giving them gold. You can't just keep giving them magic items only. You can't just keep giving them. You need a combination of a lot of different rewards, because, you know, not every player is gonna want the same thing, right? I mean, to me, it's like, you know, if I got like a bunch of gold, I'm not that excited about it. But give me something cool like a magic staff or a new sword, like I'm like, yes, please give me that, right? Like I want that, especially if like, and then it's like, oh, it's designed for me, you thought about what I like and you just gave it to me. Wow, it's amazing. So I definitely, like, you know, all the things that I want as a player, I'm definitely putting that into my game, right? That's like my thing. So, you know, that's like whatever you feel like you want as like a DM, just put it in your game. You probably already do that now, actually, right? Whatever you think is cool, you put it in your game already.
Yeah, I mean, that's already happening.
Lean into it. That's already happening. Just lean into it.
That's how you encourage yourself as a DM. You put things you think are cool in your game.
But yeah, no, and also it's kind of tying to maybe another topic, is that, you know, your players engaging with your world. You know, make that having cool magic items or titles or NPCs and stuff like that, or, you know, those connections be like built into like your setting, right? So, you know, instead of you giving like a spiel about like, you know, the history of like this one castle and the sword and the Thousand Princess War, is just like, you know, before your players have it, you should just give the players the sword, and then be like, some NPC be like, oh my god, you have the Thousand Princess sword, like what? How do you have that? And they're gonna be like, what do you mean, it's a cool sword? And it's like, you don't know what that is. And then, you know, all of a sudden it becomes, instead of it being like a passive thing where you're explaining something to somebody, you're having a conversation, right? And then all of a sudden this thing is like important, and then now it's a part of the story, and then, you know, maybe they get chased down by somebody, I don't know, like right? Yeah, you know, it could lead so far into gameplay and engagement and stuff like that. So, you know, yeah, don't be afraid of giving your players cool magic stuff. Don't avoid giving players like a bunch of gold, because they could always just lose it from thieves. Like everything that you give them, you could always just take it away by whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one way to encourage players, is to just take something from them. I think we might have talked about this before, is just like giving players something cool, or even just something valuable, or even just gold, and then at some point another villainous character comes along and just snatches it away from them. Like, it could even, I think it could even be like another NPC or something that they care about. Just like putting something that the players have come to care about in danger is definitely a good way to motivate them to go after that evil creature, or those, I don't know, evil princesses. I don't know how this became the thread of the topic of the video. But yeah, like I guess what I'm thinking of is like, how do you, I guess, like engage with players? Because you were telling me before we started this that Matt Colville, who we've mentioned several times now, had a video just about this just recently that I personally haven't seen, but might end up retreading a few things that he's already said. But just thinking about the idea of like you reward them with this powerful magic item, like this sword or this wand or whatever, and then over time they have to like go out of their way to learn about it. I think
Right. Or they wouldn't. The idea is like they wouldn't have to go out their way because they're just like stats on a sheet, right? Like to some players it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like, giving it like it's basically just like the flavor text, right? Of whatever the item you find like a video game or something like that. It's like,
yeah.
What is this thing and why was it in the dirt that you had to go dig it out or whatever?
Yeah,
right?
that's what I mean. Like you can give them the sword. It's like, oh, this gives you a +3 to hit, and you notice it's really strong against princesses, and you like eventually like would have to either try to figure out why, but that's just something that's like floating out there for players to choose whether they want to engage with it.
Right. And like high level magic items, I think should have a story attached to them, right?
Yes.
Especially like very specific ones, or even just like a +3 sword. I guess. Well, I don't know what it is like in D&D because we play Pathfinder, but like a +3 sword is like, it's like epic level stuff. Like that thing like will murder anything. Like like there only should be like 10 of them even in the country or like the land or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that like you have it means something. It's like that thing should have a name. Right? Like it really should, right? And like you should be associated with that name. Like let's say a good example would be what is it, Corey's character that he plays in Ineon, his elf scythe wielding, that guy has spilled so much blood with this thing that like like, and his scythe is a +2 scythe, right? It's like really, really strong, and Corey's character is really, really strong. It goes to the point where like the bad guys are calling him out, be like, oh my god, it's that guy, right? And they're like being hesitant and being more careful even when they're fighting him because like he's so goddamn legendary at putting people in the dirt. Like, right? So I think it was at one point you guys were fighting some hobgoblins, and the hobgoblins called out Corey, and the fact that one of them got hit with the thing but Corey rolled low and he survived. I mean, that guy's a legend. Like I don't know if Corey has a nickname yet. He probably does, I just don't remember right now, or like a title or something like that. But like the hobgoblin got props because he's still alive.
Yeah,
he took the hit.
I mean, for now.
For now. Nameless hobgoblin like 1057 or something like that, right? Like now he's Bill. Like
now he's a person like in Shadow of Mordor. He gets to move up a rank.
He gets to move up a rank. He's a level 2 mob boss now, so
That's how Mafia works.
So yeah, man, like just have your bad guys start yelling out like, oh my god, that's the and like your players would feel cool about it because it's like, oh man, these people are scared of me. Like, right? It's cool. Oh, and like I did this thing where like I want to build like armor sets, right? I have like a theme of like an idea of like an armor or a person or something like that, or an order, and then I just make some items that kind of go with it, and then like, oh yeah, if you collect all of the items you get this extra bonus to it, right?
So with that, I think I can see that as being, we're actively doing that in our Neon game, is that being like a way to get players to sort of engage with the world that they're in, is just putting something in front of them that like requires them to be engaged with it. Or even just like leaning into something that like coincidentally are into, like I was talking about before with just that random tree that they had come across, or that my players had come across in the Crown of Dragons game rather. Like I wasn't really sure what to do with that at first because it was just like ancient tree, has some markings on it, but then I was able to sort of like flip that into something that they were interested in, and I could do more like, I don't want to call it a lore dump, but it kind of was. Yeah, I don't know.
But that's what they wanted, right? They
yeah,
wanted to
that
know
was
more,
that was it though.
right?
Like that was what they wanted from it, and
Yeah.
it gave me some. It helped me like update some notes that I wrote before. So
Yeah, who knows? I mean, that might lead into if they anytime they want to know more about it, you could just add more detail to it, right? Like it's like and I think rewards don't have to always be actual rewards, right? Sometimes it's just like letting your players have like a moment, right? Like to talk to an NPC or connect or share in some like a little victory that isn't actually like XP or magic items or money, just like some goodness. Right. A good example, I think your crew in general in the pirate campaign, like that's just that anytime anyone interacts with them, nothing really comes of it other than just the pure enjoyment of interacting with these characters.
yeah, for the
Right.
most part, in our pirate campaign, the crew is like very. Like they're very good at being just those NPCs who aren't like trying to get something out of you. Like I do remember like one particularly humorous moment where Helen was discussing like the price of transport on the ship for the rest of the player characters, and then she was like really lowballing it, and then the crew was like, "Helen, come on."
They're like all looking through like the windows into the room,
Yeah.
and they're like no, higher. Right?
Yeah, no, it's just I don't know. Like I mean, if something were to happen to if I mean like for Helen and for me, if something were to happen to my boys, like I don't know what I'd do.
Exactly, right. And it's like I think that's campaign encapsulates like a whole bunch of different rewards, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Helen is kind of on the low end on personal magic items, right? Like, to be honest with you, you're still running like just regular
Yeah,
stuff.
I got the
right?
one good one. I got the zombies can't touch me or whatever medallion.
Oh yeah, never mind. I think you have the cool one that it just doesn't come up because you haven't fought any zombies recently.
But when we do,
Right, yeah. When you do, you're gonna be pretty solid. I don't know about your friends though. Your friends might get slapped up. But
yeah, whatever, it's fine.
yeah, it doesn't. It stops undead from physically. Okay, so Helen has an amulet that she got from her dead dad, essentially, who was resurrected as like a weird undead zombie ghost water thing.
Yep.
And she had to kill her dad and put him out of his misery, and then in that you got this amulet thing that like protects you against undead, but then you also had to kill your dad, which is a big plot moment, and then you also had to you found out that your mom's still alive, right? In all that moment, you got like some personal background stuff, some item stuff, and I also gave you guys XP, right? Like it was like such a big moment for Helen at that moment, you know what I mean? So it's like that's like a good example of rewarding your players. It's like sometimes you reward them with like background stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you found out that by just doing like a random job somewhere, right? It's like
Yeah, I mean, we were just there to like root out some pirates for our dwarf buddy who was just financially backing us for a moment.
yeah, exactly, right? So you guys, it was just literally like a pit stop, I'm pretty sure.
Basically.
And then all this Helen plot kind of unfolded because Ron had a good brain week and like figured out a bunch of stuff.
Oh man,
So-
aren't those the best? The good brain
Yeah.
weeks.
The good brain weeks, right? So that example of like, and like it's cool because I think I also gave. So here's the thing too, right? If you give something to your players and your players aren't excited, like I gave, I think in that after that you guys got your cool items, like I put. That's when I believe Steve the Snake Daggers existed. that came from.
What's her
Yeah,
name?
that's-
Misty's daggers?
Misty's
Misty's
daggers showed up, right? Well, Misty's one dagger, and then I also gave her a duplicate ring because I was like, this will be fine, right? So, like, right. So now she has two Steve Snake daggers that does cool stabby poison damage, which I think I just homebrewed because I was like, I don't know, a D8 of poison damage, that's fine, right? Like, who cares, right? But that's like iconic now, right? Like Steve the Snake daggers are so legit, right?
Yeah.
And then what else happened? That one. Oh yeah, I gave my best character Abby. Like I gave her, I don't know what the word is, but it's basically just like a robe that like shoots like it's full of stars, and they burn. They can all light up and become like you're like basically getting like some cover because like no one can see you because you're just like this bright light, right? And I was like, here you go. This is kind of for you, right? And then she's like, it's kind of whatever, right? And she had said before, obviously, because, you know, she's Abby, and she always like, I want to be a fairy, mermaid, princess, druid, elf lady. And I'm like, you can't be all those at once right now, but we'll work on it, right? So like, I promised her that we'll figure it out later, right? So I sat down and I was like, okay, what is a princess? Basically a magical girl, right? I think that's what she really wants. A fairy princess is kind of like a magical girl. And then what a magical girl is cool about? Transforming outfits, right? And I was like, okay, cool. I think at that time too, like maybe we were like talking about Pokemon or something like that. And I was like,
that came up.
I was like, oh, yeah. And then I was, looking through Pinterest, and I saw like, there are people who do like Pokemon outfits based on Pokemon, or like drawings of characters wearing clothes that are like different Pokemon, right? So I was like, oh my god, that's it, right? Because like Pokemon are kind of like they're natural, essentially they're monsters, but like, you know, they're also, you know, they're mystical. And I was like, cool, I can take some of these ideas based on these Pokemon and kind of translate that into Pathfinder and give some cool abilities. But in terms of that, I mean, now we're just getting to like, you know, game design, like item design, right? Like,
I mean, we can do item design, sure.
Yeah, so I like Pathfinder is cool because, you know, you want options, but also like the best option obviously is to attack until the thing is dead, right? Right. So, you know, giving your players lots of different like buttons to press is cool, but sometimes you kind of just want a button to press with the like twice, right, to give a different option, right? So the idea of it is like, I need these outfits to not be like either you have to do this or attack. I need it to be all passives, right? That everything that happens or abilities you get from it will augment something that your character is naturally doing. Because everybody was fairly new to Pathfinder, right? Like, I don't want to overwhelm them with the action economy because they're just there to have fun, right? So, you know, I had to figure out like, all right, so an idea. The first one I had was I saw this artist that drew a really nice picture of like a Lapras lady, I guess, right? So it's like a lady dressed in Lapras, and I was like, okay, cool. Lapras is the transport Pokemon, and I was like, okay, they're on the high seas a lot. They're probably gonna fight on like in water, so maybe instead of fighting in water, she could just always has water walk on, and everybody within 30 feet has water walk, because then that'll solve the problem where all of our melee characters have to be fighting on the water, right? So, right, swimming, right? And I was like, okay, what's Lapras's like Pokemon ability? Calvin, you don't know anything about Pokemon, so you wouldn't understand this. So it's like,
I don't know. Is a Lapras like when you're racing and you do laps in the race? Is that what that is?
Nice try, Calvin. Get out of here. Go play Pokemon, you jabroni.
Never.
Right. So, okay, well, in that design, I was like, okay, this is an ability called Shell Armor that says like you just can't be crit, right? Like no matter what, even the ability tells you crit, you just can't be crit. And I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. So then I was like, Abby just can't be crit no matter what, no matter if they roll a 20, no matter if they roll double. They should like in this form, she just can't be crit, right?
Yeah,
that doesn't mean
there's an in-game ability for that already, so it's not like
oh, is there?
Yeah, like undead and stuff have that. They're immune to crits because there's no like crits are like precision damage where you're hitting like a specific spot on someone to do like extra damage. I think like slimes or jellies or whatever have that same thing where they're immune to crits.
Yeah,
because they don't have a weak point because they're all just like jello.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's not unfathomable that the ability can just become a player ability, right? And so and like those are kind of minor because like she can still be slapped by thousands of points of damage and die. Like it's or it's not like you should just in that place, it's like in that armor or that outfit, it's fun. And I think she appreciates it because I made a couple more where it's like one's like water based, one is armor based, so she has like this armor that she puts on, and it's basically just like another and they're all natural themed, right? Because Lapras is a water Pokemon. There's a lot of shells, so I described her. The picture has like a lot of shells and stuff on it. Then there's another one where it's like, you know, it's like a dress, but instead of the skirt area, it's like armor plating, and the character in the photo or whatever has like an armored umbrella. So I was like, okay, cool. She gets like the ability to use a shield, right? Because like that's like a mechanic in Pathfinder, right? So it's just like, and she's a druid, she could use a shield anyway, right?
Yeah.
But now instead of her having to really manage a shield, she could just do it, because my, you know, again, like my players are, or I'm not trying to play that game, right? We're just trying to have fun. And you know, I had one where like she's like in a speedy grass mode that's based off of like a Pokemon that's like a really fast grass Pokemon that does poison stuff, and all this stuff is passive, and all this stuff works with, I either stole from like monster abilities or whatever, right, and just gave it to my players. And like, I think that she really appreciates it, because it's like, you know, she just wants to have a little bit more options and be a little bit more like narratively special, right?
Like we all want. That's what players want.
Yeah, to be narratively special, to be the heroes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and again, this is why I have trouble with that kind of thing, because like, I don't know what you want. Like, I'll make a thing that I think is cool and put it in front of people, and hopefully they think it's cool, but for me to like specifically figure out what people need, I mean, what I would have to do is I would have to look at like, okay, what weapon is this person using, or what are they usually casting spells, or what kind of armor are they wearing, and I'll just make like a special version of that has like a ability or something.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so an example could be, I know for my game that I obviously played in, right? So you remember that wolf that ate Keely?
Sure do.
Right?
Yeah.
That big winter wolf that was able to summon more wolves. Well, you could have also tied into the fact that if you actually like, maybe if we took that wolf's pelt and made it into like some hide armor or something like that, give that hide armor the ability to summon, cast the spell summon monster or whatever, or summon animal, whatever, and make it just be like you can only summon wolves.
Yeah, that right? Makes sense actually, because I did give that wolf the specific ability to summon more wolves. Yeah,
so you could just like, you know, it gives you the ability to howl, and then, you know, a bunch of wolves show up. But like, that's like, you know, once a day, once a week, or whatever you feel appropriate of it to do, because it's like, in terms of like a, you know, high stakes battle where you're like, shit, I really need to pull out all my stuff right now. It's like, well, you know, I can summon some wolves, and then they can go distract some people or whatever, right? And wolves are super useful because their attacks trip and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you could summon like a bunch of small things, even just for the purpose of flanking, that would be useful.
Exactly, right? And it's cool, and it's narrative, and people could be like, why are you in a white... People could be like, yeah, I'm wearing this cool-ass white wolf pelt with this giant white wolf hat, right? And you're like, people call you the white wolf because you look like a white wolf, and you summon wolves. So people are like, wow, that guy's pretty badass, right? Like, right?
Well, you know what, Ramon? Maybe that item does exist now. Maybe if someone ever goes back to Arnsden, where Keely was killed, they'll find a interesting looking wolf pelt enchanted by, I forget the name of the that magic lady that was there helping out in town, but maybe that's the thing she's made.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, just you could make stuff out of like that. That's always like my fun part about being a DM, is to my ability to, you know, create cool stuff and give it to my players. That's what I want to do the most, I think. That and you know, push their face in with big strong monsters. That's what I want.
Yeah, I mean,
and put the fear of God in them. That's like that's how I compensate my putting the fear of God in them, is to give them cool stuff so they could probably make it out if they're lucky.
That is the fun. Like I do really like putting them in those dangerous situations. I hate when it actually gets someone killed, because then it's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Hey man, if they had the wife wolf's pelt, they would have had like a couple of wolves around. Maybe they would have survived. Who knows, Calvin? Maybe you gotta give them more cool shit. I think that might be the solution to stop killing feces.
That's the plan.
Give them more cool shit.
That's the plan. I mean, it did work for the Quest of the Fate Seer game when you guys were dealing with that dungeon vault, and at the end of it, we were fighting those two giant golden minotaurs, and we were worried that someone was gonna die. Baruth was pretty close to being dead, but then Dolorfek managed to land a killing strike with that magic sword that you guys had come for.
Yeah, which is hilarious because Tim is at the time was still super new and has never actually seen what a high level magic item could possibly do, right? I think he was like on the floor being like, what the heck, that number's not real. Like
yeah, it was. I don't remember if he got like a crit or something with it, but I remember it was like a ridiculous amount of dice at the time. No,
yeah,
he had
definitely
magic
crit.
weapon on it. And
yeah, he also had magic weapon on it. It was still, I think he did crit because it's like he's a fighter or whatever. Like,
probably because I remember home ruling that magic weapon stacks with already magic-y weapons, because I was like, that sounds cooler, so I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah, but an extra D8 on top of like going from like 3d8s to 4d8s, it's not that big of a deal. We're already in the threshold of crazy. Like
yeah, you can keep going if you're already in that threshold.
Yeah, which is super cool. It became one of those epic moments that we can look back on because of that cool ass magic item, like one-shotting that thing, you know? Like, yeah, definitely gotta get the Lorfik a cool ass axe or whatever and make it super cool like that so you can just start being more of a badass than he already is.
Yeah, I just opened the game and rolled 20. He definitely got a crit and rolled insane damage on that. Okay. Do you want to talk about custom items a bit? Just to close off the last 10-15 minutes of the show.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's what I want to do forever. Talk about custom items.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Because it would really, like, I've made some things that I don't know if I'm ever going to use. I mean, like, one thing I made, I saw this one webcomic. I don't know if you would have seen it because I posted it in the Fateseer group chat.
Okay.
On Discord. It was like this pun about this sword called Stabacus. And it was like literally a sword with an abacus in it.
It's called Stabacus.
So, I don't know. It just like inspired me to make this sword that like uses int for like damage instead of like strength. Like you use it for your attack roll and for your damage roll. And then it also has like ability saves where you pump someone full of... I wrote down mathematical power.
Stop.
And then they have to roll a will save because of all that math that just gets like shunted into their brain.
That's hilarious. It's just like the meme where like the dude's staring and it's like exactly. The math starts flying.
Yeah, basically that, but it hurts. And
Stabacus.
I don't know when that's gonna come up because I have nowhere in any campaign that I'm running where I feel like I can just put that in.
Just slap it in a dungeon somewhere, and when they finally roll around to that dungeon,
maybe
you just be like, here's the MacGuffin item that you searched, and also there's this chest, and oh look, there's Stabacus. Like,
I mean, I want to use it, but I don't know. I have to like either put it in a dungeon.
You should give it to a bad guy. You should definitely give it to a bad guy and like have Stabacus used on the players, and then while some of the players defeat the bad guy, they get Stabacus. That'd be pretty cool.
Some genius awesome mastermind.
Power. Yeah, and they could just be like, haha, I have the power of Stabacus, and just keep referring to it a lot. Like, that'd be such a good way to be like pumping up your players, being like, oh, look at this cool magic item. Or maybe they'll just be like, I don't want this, and just sell it. And you're like so sad.
No, my sword. But yeah, like I got to figure out where to put that because it was just a thing that's like, and I'm sure you get this too, where you just have an idea for a magic item and then you just want to make it, and you got to figure out like, okay, where's this gonna go?
Yeah, definitely. I have like a page of just items. I have just like so many items that are just like all over the place, and they're like so random. It's like I don't know, like like they're just weird, and hopefully one day I get to just kind of throw them out there. But I don't want to throw out all of them. I want to keep some of them for the future because I think I have a long life of DMing in front of me. So
oh yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna keep some of those things close to my chest, dog.
Because there was also I had to make like a custom bloodline for one of my characters. of course, the one who died, who, like, again, they were playing a Stormborn sorcerer in Pathfinder First Edition, and then when we switched over, like, that didn't exist, so I just kind of, like, converted one of the elemental bloodlines, just, like, turned it to electricity damage, pretty much. I don't know when that's going to get used now, because that character died, so I don't know. I don't know when this will come up at all. But it's still there. I think it's still useful somewhat.
Yeah. I mean, you could even just maybe put some of those abilities into like some Monster Energy drinks, and just be like, you get to have some of these powers or whatever whenever you crack one of these for like a couple minutes.
You get lightning powers.
Like, could you imagine like blue lightning? You just crack it, and then just like lightning shoots out of your eyes. Like, that would be pretty dope.
That's gonna be in the ultra extreme line of Monster Energy drinks.
Yeah, that's the experimental stuff, right? Like, they have like adverse side effects. Like they just pass out at the end of the battle. Like...
Yeah, once it wears off, you are just unconscious for a number of rounds.
Yeah, right. That could be something cool.
Like with real energy drinks.
Yeah, you know, you're gonna have that crash, and some crashes are harder than others, right? Yeah. So, you know, that's crazy. I mean, Stabacus and the ultra blue lightning is a cool idea of cool magic items that you just homebrew.
Like, do you
Right?
do you when you make magic items, do you have any like mundane stuff, like things that are like very low level, like not really as significant, like combat bonus or anything? Well, maybe a combat bonus, but like just something that seems very plain. Like, do you have anything like that, or?
I mean, typically I don't put further thought into it. Like, it's like usually those things just show up on the fly. I don't think I've ever pre-planned any sort of mundane magical item. I'm just like, yeah, that sounds cool. That exists, right? Like, mostly generated from players. Although, to be fair, the demon net was basically a mundane item. It was actually a really terrible net for all intents and purposes.
Oh yeah, I know.
except for you know,
the one thing it had to do.
Super hard. Yeah, doing the one thing it had to do, which is capture a demon, right? Like, otherwise, like, if you toss that thing on anything else, it would just basically shatter. Like,
yeah,
it sucked.
I don't know. Like, I mean, that was kind of the charm of the item for me, and is that it was like very like only specific to one situation, and just the fact that I know it was like a last minute. I feel like it was a last minute homebrew thing. You probably mentioned this, how it was like a 50-50 shot of it actually landing on the person we were trying to capture with it.
Yeah. Because you know. Because I thought it was more dramatic that way. And also, I think the character's AC was kind of high, like the enemy. And I was like, well, you know what? I don't really want to waste anyone's time and just be like 50-50 sounds I think it was better odds at that time.
It sure sounded that way, didn't it?
Yeah, you know.
Until it took us like 3 or 4 tries to actually get it.
It took you guys like 3 rounds. Yeah, because I remember... one of the rounds, Payne got slapped. His character, Ray, got attacked. And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, all right, 50-50, toss the net. I think 2 people tried and they both missed. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll stab Ray and grab him. And then I did that. And then good thing Ray had like a lot of HP.
Yeah. Because
he basically tanked that entire like 3 rounds to himself. You know. And you know, you guys failed again. Yeah, really. Actually, speaking of designing items, Ray's JoJo, the demon battle axe, which
yes,
was like,
yeah,
right.
That's definitely that's definitely like something that fits with the character that also the player wants. Let's talk about this weapon.
Right. So the origins of JoJo, the demon battle axe, stems from like, I think, like the 2nd session or something silly like that.
Wasn't it was it the second one? Wasn't it the first one where he killed that butler with it? Or
no, it was the 2nd session. So you weren't there. So it was the 2nd session of the pirate game, right? So they were basically trapped in a room that was being filled with gas. I mean, I probably should have said sleeping gas, because maybe they wouldn't have freaked out that much, but they're like, oh my god, we're gonna get gas, right? So everyone started freaking out, and they're like, okay, we left all our weapons at the front, right? What are we gonna do? And then, you know, Payne is like, okay, my character grabs a chair and smashes the door down. And I was like, all right, roll me a dice and see what, roll a d20 and make an attack roll. He rolled a nat 20, and then I was like, yeah, man, you totally obliterated the door, but the chair is all busted up too, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, cool. I was like, yeah, you have like one chair leg left. And he's like, all right, cool. And he's like, oh no, there's like the butler of the mansion. He's like,
right.
oh no, they escaped, right? And I was like, okay, Payne, what do you do? He's like, I'm gonna go clobber the dude, but because, you know, I'm trying to knock him out, right? Mm. And then he rolls like a nat 20, and I was like, man, you're way too strong. There's no way you can pull back. Like, that dude is dead.
I mean, yep.
And then he's like, oh no, right? I didn't mean to do that. But then later, a couple sessions later, he was like, you guys are trying to sneak into someone's cabbage cart. And then,
yes, yeah.
Right, that's when I think you showed up with your first character, Drake.
Yes.
Right? You're trying to sneak into the cabbage cart and then, you know, take it over. But then, like, you know, you... Again, Payne like kept the chair leg just in case, right? And then he uses I'm gonna go clobber the dude with the chair leg. I'm just gonna try and knock him out. Rolls a nat 20 again, and I was like, nah, man, that dude's dead. And he's like, no, not again. And the best moment, one of the best moments in my DMing career is when you actually playing a character that has not, like, you personally, Calvin, has not experienced this before, and you're like, what do you mean again?
Yeah, that was both in and out of character.
Yeah.
Like, again?
It legitimately like solidified the fact that if I'm gonna jump into a campaign, I don't want any backstory. Just let me like experience things as it comes at me. Like,
yeah.
Because, you know, like, that's so fun. It was so great. And so yeah, no, and I was like, okay. And then we all talked about it. I was like, yeah, man, that. And like Payne has like, his barbarian has like PTSD, and he's like, you know, freaking out. He's like, oh no. And then he's like, I think this chair leg's haunted or possessed by a demon. And we're like, yeah, okay, sure. And he's like, what's his name? And it's like Jojo the demon. And I was like, okay, Jojo the chair leg club can give you, I don't know, once per day or something, you get a free attack with Jojo. And I was like, because you whip out the club and the club is all bloodthirsty, right? Because you obviously one-shotted 2 people with it two times you used it, right? Yeah. And you know, that worked for a little bit, and that was really funny. And then, you know, we got to like basically a blacksmith, and then Payne was like, okay, well, I have this cool battle axe, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not as cool as Jojo. Can you somehow merge the two? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I've been kind of thinking about, like, you know, I mean, giving you another magic item, right? So, you know, I said, like, yes, the dwarf you know, imprints like Jojo's demonic essence into some runes and runes the battle axe for you, right? And then thus Jojo the battle axe is formed. And I was like, okay, cool. So I was like giving him, I wanted to give Payne some cool abilities, because Jojo's a demon, right? And a demon possessed sword should just not just give something a +1, it should also give him some other stuff, but also work into conjunction with his character as a barbarian, right?
Right.
So Jojo's first ability of like getting a free attack once per round, I was like, okay, I was like, that's cool, let's run off that. I'm saying you're gonna have I think it was like 3 options. I said once per encounter, or once per, yeah, I think it's a once per encounter, you get to do one of these 3 things, right? And it's like, one of them is like, okay, you get a free attack at your highest base attack bonus as like a free action, right? Cool, that's super useful. He's swinging away, maybe something's still alive, he's gonna slap it again, right? Next one was it's like you can choose to if you hit somebody with whatever damage you do, you can absorb that and like regain some HP. Because I was like, yeah, you're gonna crit one time and you're gonna be low on HP to keep you going in the fight. That seems like something that Payne would find super useful. Right. And I think another one was like, if you kill an opponent, like you can just make a free attack or something. I think I forget what the third ability was, but I gave him like cool names like Devour and Slaughter and like cool demonic axe gory stuff.
So
right?
metal.
So metal, right? And and he was like, yeah, man, that sounds super cool. I can't wait to use it. And that legitimately was the best. And actually, going back to the fight with that fire lady.
Mistress Scarlet, I want to say.
Nah, it's Mrs. Sonata, because
Scarlet Sonata, okay.
Sonata, right? Mrs. Sonata, the giant fire lady, right? When Pain was in her clutches, he rolled a crit on his attack, and then he used Devour and took some HP back, which made him survive the next hit, right?
Yes.
So it was like super useful, and I was like, yes, cool, finally. Like, right.
Yeah, no, that's the sauce, man. Like when people say that they're having fun and then they engage with the thing that you give them or what they do with it, and I don't know, it's just really cool. I'm still I'm just thinking about I'm jazzed about that. I'm still thinking about the backstory that player sent me earlier today. That's just, I don't know, that's the good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it's that kind of stuff. I mean, you just try it out. I mean, if something's a little bit too powerful, you could just talk to your player and be like, "Hey, man, I don't know what I was doing. Can I tone back a little bit? Yeah, we gotta talk. Like, maybe you can get this later. We'll put it back to normal once it's kind of appropriate. Or if something's not working out, you could just be like, well, let's retool this and see what we can do, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, again, you are playing a game with your friends and players, or whatever relationship you have with them. It should be one where you're comfortable enough to like look each other in the eye and say, hey, I probably shouldn't have given you this thing that does 3d20 damage.
That was a bad idea.
Oh, man. Okay, no, I was going to say something, but it's totally off topic. But I was just going to say that I've been like working on some custom items for our Starfinder game. And I saw that there were some weapons that did d20s for damage. And I was like, yes, more of those, please.
Yes, please. Let me roll the die that is to hit, but for damage. The Starfinder is crazy, man. The numbers are so high in that game. Like, oh my gosh, some of the guns.
They are
Like
ridiculous. It was like 3d20 on one thing. I was like, that's too much.
Yeah, it's like $1 million too. Watch, it's like you could have this $1 million gun that will vaporize anybody, And I was like, who's ever gonna buy this? Who has the money? But yeah, no. So okay, if you're planning on designing stuff or homebrewing stuff for Pathfinder 2, I would suggest going for stuff that will either work passively with someone's abilities or gives them the abilities from like another like a spell or something, right? Mm-hmm. Like what you kind of want to do is you want to work your cool thing within the action economy, so your players gives them option for their strike or their spell or whatever, right? Versus like giving them like something that will take away from their action economy, right? Yeah, you're always trying to kind of like when you want to put your zest on it, you got to put it on top of something. it's like a cool thing to do. I think it's better designed that way.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that because I agree with you. So yeah, I mean, that's I to wrap this up a bit, I guess. I think definitely as a GM, you want to think about like what you can give to your players that will like motivate them to move forward and also be something that they might be able to engage with. But just in general, something that ties to what they've been doing, something that ties to what they want. If you can figure that out, or what their character does and what their character is good at, just so it feels like a reward that's like unique and special to them. I think is that a good summary?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't have to do it all the time, but like definitely once in a while, give them something that's like just for them, right? Make it so they're your little special PC.
Yeah, dangle that carrot.
Like, yeah, right. Here you go, buddy. You did it. Good job.
You killed the princess. Good job.
Yeah. Good job.
I'm right back. All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it for this episode of the show, of the podcast that we do. again, if you like this sort of thing, if you want to hear more about just like casual talks about running RPG games, is what we're really aiming for here. Something that we really want to emphasize. So if you want to hear more of that, just hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you get a notification when there's a new episode of anything that we put up, and when we go live with our Lancer games. And also check out our Lancer games playlist. Definitely a lot of people seem to be liking that, so I think that gives me a good feeling that, hey, we've got a pretty good Lancer game going on. I know it's kind of a niche thing, not a lot of people are doing it, so hopefully we're able to do something interesting in that space. Also, check us out on the social media. Oh, I probably feel like I should mention, because I've mentioned our podcast on that show several times, I should mention that I'm on the Untold Stories project every Wednesday playing a Fallout RPG, Fallout Wasteland Warfare, every Wednesday for the next little while now. So I've been on there a few episodes, and I keep mentioning like our podcast on there, so I feel like I should like be reciprocal about it. And also they do really great stuff over there, so be sure to check me out first and foremost. But while you're over there, just on Twitch and on YouTube, just give them a subscription as well.
Spread that support,
of course. And then also check us out on the Twitter and the Facebook and our website winwithdice.ca. Just to hear more about us in the team and what we're up to. And I don't know, Ramon, do you have anything else to say before we close out this episode?
Well, if go ahead and steal whatever magic items we've talked about here. I mean, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, whatever, man.
And,
do something with Stabacus. If people want to know like what I made the stats of that, I could just put it up somewhere. It's pretty straightforward as far as items go, so I can just put it out there. Or the Monster Energy drink if people want to see that too. We should publish our items, whatever.
We can publish. If you guys want to hear about or know about any items that we've created ourselves and wants us to put it somewhere, then let us know, because we will, and that would be super cool.
Yeah, I think that would be great actually. Just another thing we could put out there. Okay, and what else I think people might find useful, like what else we should put out there. There's one particularly solid piece of advice that I like to fall back on when I'm trying to run a game.
What is that, Calvin?
Oh, the one thing you need to remember is to win with dice.
Whoa. Whoa.
Mind-blowing.
It's being blown.
Okay, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have fun out there and stay safe.
See you guys.